He was a wealthy man who searched for his missing daughter for 20 years without knowing that she was alive, breathing, and working inside his own house. The greatest tragedy was not that he lost her, but that he failed to recognize her when she stood before him every single day. For more than 20 years, Don Alejandro Robles lived with a wound that never healed. He was one of the richest men in Guadalajara, the owner of a chain of hotels and real estate projects spread across the state of Jalisco. His name appeared in business magazines, charity events, and meetings with politicians and high-ranking officials. He had money, he had influence, he had respect, but he did not have his daughter. Camila Robles disappeared when she was 6 years old. On a rainy afternoon, as she was leaving school, amid traffic and umbrellas, her hand slipped from the nanny's grasp for just a few seconds, and she was never seen again. There was no ransom demand, no clear evidence, no suspects. Investigations continued for months, then years, until the case was closed and placed in a neglected drawer, marked with a single word written in pencil: incomplete. From that day on, the Robles household was never the same. Alejandro's wife fell ill from grief and passed away 3 years later. He was left alone, surrounded by luxury, yet empty inside. Every year, on Camila's birthday, he asked for a small cake to be placed on the main dining table. No one touched it. No one spoke. And he always said, "As long as I am alive, I will never stop searching for her." What Alejandro never imagined was that his daughter was closer than he ever thought. Inside the Robles mansion itself, for the past 8 years, worked a young woman named Maria. Quiet, always wearing the same gray uniform. She arrived before dawn and left after sunset. She cleaned, cooked, and organized. She did not ask questions. She did not complain. To the family, the guests, and the staff, Maria was just a maid. Tell Maria to prepare the coffee. Ask Maria to clean the office. Hurry up, Maria. No one asked where she came from. No one cared to know her story. Maria grew up in an orphanage in the city of Tepatitlan, with no clear memories of her childhood. She held on to only a vague image: a tall man with a warm voice, a smiling woman, and a song her mother used to hum whenever it rained. And there was also a small scar behind her left ear. That was all she had. When she turned 17, she left the orphanage with a bag of second-hand clothes in her hand and an address written on a piece of paper: Guadalajara. There, she found work as a housemaid, and so, without knowing it, she returned to the house where she had been born. Don Alejandro rarely looked at her, not out of contempt, but because he no longer truly looked at anyone. He lived withdrawn into himself, inside an office filled with old photographs, dusty files, and silence. But there was something strange, something no one was ready to notice. One rainy night, the electricity went out in the mansion. Maria had to continue cleaning the hallways by candlelight. Believing herself alone, she began to hum, without thinking, a soft, old melody she did not know the origin of. A short, sorrowful lullaby, sung to children afraid of thunder. At that moment, Don Alejandro froze at the top of the staircase. The papers slipped from his hands, and his heart stopped beating for a few seconds. That melody, he had not heard it in 20 years. It was the same song his wife used to sing to Camila. It was not common. It was not on the radio. It had only ever been sung inside that house. He asked, in a broken voice, Who taught you that song? Maria panicked and lowered her head. I don't know, sir. It just comes to me when it rains. He stepped closer, then closer still. His eyes were fixed on her left ear. Lift your hair. She hesitated. Then she did. The scar appeared. Small, round, exactly as described in the medical report from 20 years ago, exactly as in the old photograph, exactly as in the memory that had never betrayed him. Alejandro sat down on the stairs. He did not cry. He did not scream. He simply said, as if speaking to himself, Camila. Maria laughed nervously. My name is Maria, sir. He slowly lifted his head, his eyes filled with something heavier than tears. No, that is the name they gave you. The name you were born with is Camila Robles. In the days that followed, the truth unraveled painfully. She had been taken in by a woman after her disappearance, who later died. She was sent to an orphanage. Her name was changed. The case was closed. The child was lost, but the person survived. The cruelest irony of all, Don Alejandro himself had signed her employment contract 8 years earlier without reading the name, without truly looking at her face. 20 years of searching the streets while his daughter prepared his coffee every morning. On her next birthday, only one cake was not placed on the table, but 2. They sat together, father and daughter, silent, not because there were no words, but because some truths, when delayed for 20 years, need time to be spoken. Sometimes, the tragedy is not in losing the ones we love, but in growing used to their presence without ever truly seeing them.